Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed ministers, excellencies. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas perpetrated the worst massacre against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Over 1,200 lives were brutally taken, and more than 250 people were abducted. Amidst this darkness, the unity and resilience of the Israeli people shines through. It is this unity that has driven Israel's determination to achieve the objectives of this war, bringing all of the hostages home, dismantling Hamas's military and governing capabilities, and ensuring that Gaza will never again pose a threat to Israel. 472 days. For that length of time, hostages have been subjected to unimaginable suffering, among them the 3 women released yesterday. Romi Gonen, age 24, was abducted from the Nova Music Festival after witnessing the murder of her best friend. Injured, she was taken to Gaza, where she received practically no treatment for her severe wounds. Emily Damari, a 28-year-old British Israeli, was taken from her kibbutz, Kfar Aza, after a terrorist invaded and massacred her neighbors. In the last message before her abduction, she wrote that terrorists were in her neighborhood, shooting near her apartment. Doron Steinbrecher, 31, a veterinary nurse, was also kidnapped from kibbutz Kfar Aza after being trapped in her home. A video later emerged showing her pale, thin, and visibly suffering in captivity. These women, who endured unimaginable sufferings, are heroes. They embody the strength and resilience of the Israeli people, standing as eternal symbols of courage in the face of inconceivable cruelty. Yet even as we see the first hostages finally returning home, the joy of their return is shadowed by the immense pain that remains. Families have endured months of psychological torture, forced to watch staged videos of their loved ones, broken and afraid. Hamas has weaponized fear and grief as tools of control. Their propaganda videos of hostages are calculated acts of terror. They serve as tools of psychological warfare, amplifying fear and grief to deepen the suffering of the hostages, their loved ones, and the entirety of Israeli society. The suffering of our hostages has extended beyond the psychological to include physical violence and abuse, deprivation of basic needs like food and medical care, and conditions that violate every norm and concept of human decency. For the last 472 days, these innocent people have known only misery, violence, and torture at the hands of Hamas. Hamas's brutality has not stopped at kidnapping. It has extended to the execution of hostages and all kinds of immeasurably cruel acts. We will never forget any of the victims of these atrocities, and their memory will strengthen our fight to ensure justice and security for all our people. Among them, Kfir Bivas, who just 2 days ago should have celebrated his 2nd birthday. Yet for this little boy, his brother Ariel, his parents Shiri and Yarden, still held in captivity, there have been no celebrations, just as there were none for his 1st birthday, only captivity and suffering. The Security Council must confront an uncomfortable truth. It called for the release of these hostages, but these calls were ignored by Hamas. The Council passed resolutions and demanded their release, yet Hamas, a terror group which adheres to no international norm or law, violated these resolutions with no accountability or price to pay. And yet, it was Israel that was scrutinized in this very room, while no measures against those who kidnap babies and elderly were adopted. By failing to hold Hamas accountable, the Council has set a dangerous precedent. This failure represents a profound lapse in judgment across the international community. It signals to the world that terrorist organizations can operate with impunity, exploiting innocent lives as bargaining chips without fear of meaningful repercussions. This precedent emboldens not just Hamas, but any group that seeks to emulate its tactics. The global ramifications of this inaction are staggering. It threatens the very foundations of international security and justice. Some of the consequences of this failure may be salvaged, Israel demands that the Council takes the most basic, moral step to unequivocally condemn Hamas and to finally designate it as the terrorist organization it is. Mr. President, it was Hamas that initiated this war with its brutal attack on October 7th, and its fellow Iranian proxies across the region followed suit, joining the attacks against Israel. For the past 15 months, the Houthi terrorist regime, guided and funded by Iran, launched hundreds of rockets and UAV attacks against Israeli population centers. On our northern border, 63,000 of our citizens were forced to evacuate as a result of Hezbollah firing over 22,000 rockets, missiles, and anti-tank munitions at their homes. We will continue to enforce the ceasefire understandings with Lebanon and will respond to any violation. The State of Israel maintains its right to act against any threat to its security. In regard to the developments in Syria, Israel is taking all necessary steps to defend and ensure the security of the communities in the Golan Heights and the entire civilian population. The State of Israel has no interest in a conflict with Syria, nor has it any intention of interfering in its internal affairs. But we will not tolerate a situation that endangers our civilians, allow Iran to reestablish itself in the region, and transfer weapons to Hezbollah. We now stand at a turning point for the entire region. Iran's proxies have suffered devastating losses. Through the bravery and determination of our soldiers, Israel has not only weakened Hamas, but fundamentally altered the strategic landscape of the Middle East. The Iranian regime's network of terror, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, have faced significant setbacks, with their capacities diminished and their positions isolated. Arch-terrorists such as Hassan Nasrallah, Mohammad Def, Yahya Sinwar, and Ibrahim Akil have been eliminated. Israel actions have sent clear message. The days when terror groups could operate with impunity are over. The days when Iran could freely sow chaos and terror throughout the Middle East are over. It is therefore clear that Israel's decisive and necessary response to the October 7th massacre is what forced Hamas to the negotiating table. Without the courage and sacrifices of our forces, the hostages would still be languishing in captivity without any hope for freedom. This progress comes at a heavy cost. Israel has agreed to release convicted terrorists responsible for heinous crimes to bring our people home. This is a decision no nation should have to make. Yet, we made it because we hold life sacred. This deal is not a conclusion. It is a step in the demanding journey to ensure the return of every single hostage. Each decision we make reflects the profound moral weight of balancing justice with imperative to save lives. Esteemed Council members, this hostage release deal reflects Israel's unwavering resolve to meet the war's objectives. We are steadfast in our commitment to dismantling Hamas's capabilities, ensuring Gaza is no longer a threat, and returning every hostage to their families. We recognize and deeply appreciate the steadfast support of our allies, particularly the United States. The principled leadership and unwavering backing of both the Biden and Trump administrations have been instrumental in navigating these challenging times. This partnership represents the shared commitment to combating terror and upholding the values of freedom and security. Their support is a testament to the strength of alliances built on mutual respect and a common vision for a safer world. Council members, to conclude, Hamas has turned Gaza into a fortress of terror, sacrificing the civilians to shield their operations. It has weaponized schools, mosques, hospitals, and UN facilities, transforming them into instruments of war. This barbarity demands a resolute and united response from the international community. Failing to act decisively against Hamas sends a dangerous message to other terrorist organizations that such tactics are permissible. It is a test of our collective will to uphold international law and human dignity. The families of the hostages and the people of Israel know that this moment is only the beginning. This war will not end until every hostage is returned and Hamas's ability to terrorize is dismantled. We will not rest until every one of them is back home. We will not stop until the threat of Hamas is eliminated. And we will never forget the price that has been paid by the innocent. Thank you, Mr. President.